Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again in this YouTube astrological segment. I'm going to be talking about the moon square or opposition Mercury in Synastry. Now, first off, the unconscious side and the inner personality of the moon person, that is the moon, and I'm referring to the moon person, of course, and the communication connected with the Mercury person can be compatible. Sorry, they're not compatible, incompatible, and not in harmony. And the moon person may often not be responsive to what the Mercury person asks, or it could be where the moon person might perceive the Mercury person as being overly nosy, inquisitive, and somebody that may be prone to gossip. So the moon person may be reluctant to actually respond to certain things that the Mercury person is asking. The moon person may take offense to it. And the thing is, whether this is as far as the Synastry aspect goes, the Mercury person may at times be judgmental and lack diplomacy when speaking. Mercury person may be someone that doesn't really is not worried about he or she, about how they're articulating things, how things are coming out. They can come off to the moon person as somewhat brusque and abrupt in their speech. And the thing about this is you have this, as far again, the Synastry aspect can also indicate um, where the moon individual, it could just simply be misconstruing certain things that the Mercury person says. It might take it, personally at times, where the criticism might be constructive, but it may be perceived or construed as very like a negative or derogatory remark, when in actuality it may not always be that way. Now, the moon person, may perceive the Mercury person as really being overly or excessively cerebral and not really focusing. Might be like emotionally disconnected, being, trying to be overly objective regarding matters, and might come across, as uncaring or unfeeling. Say if the Mercury person has their Mercury in Virgo. I mean, the Mercury in Virgo, even by itself, and regardless of Synastry aspects it makes to another person's points in their chart, can be, not just analytical, can be rather, judgmental, cynical, and critical in their communications and in their speech. And let's say the Mercury in Virgo person has a square or opposition to the other person's moon. It can really come across as being, offensive to that moon person, when in times it may not, even though it may not always be that way, but the moon person may really see and perceive it in that manner. And the thing about as well about this sinister aspect. Now, the moon, the Mercury person may see the moon person as overly, sensitive, emotional, even irrational at times, and more, more about, being dominated by the, the sensitive, the emotional side of things, the human side of something, as opposed to thinking about something in a more, rational manner. And also, too, let's say if the moon person, needs a ride or a short journey, because Mercury is connected with short journeys and local transportation. The Mercury person may often not be there for the moon person, and the thing is, may not be available for the moon person. The Mercury person, may have really trouble understanding that moon person's, the inner demeanor, that unconscious side, or may not just be compatible With it, if the moon, let's say if the moon person has their moon in Gemini, the Mercury person may see the moon in Gemini as far as that unconscious side of that individual. Somebody that's overly, fickle, mercurial, not very inconstant, overly loquacious, superficial, may perceive the moon in Gemini person as somebody that is living, maybe vicariously through other person's achievements, at least on a more subconscious or unconscious level. Now, the thing about this is, as I've stated in my earlier videos pertaining to the natal placements in astrology, is that you never isolate any single one astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person astrologically speaking based on that alone, because the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, not just one. And this applies to synastry aspects as well. In synastry, one aspect certainly doesn't make or break a connection, and the moon square or opposite Mercury in synastry is certainly no exception to that. Most synastry charts are going to have a plethora of aspects between person A and person B. And you could have, in this case, you could have some positive aspects can offset this one to some degree. Now, the basic the interpretation for moon square or opposite Mercury would remain the same, but it might not be as pronounced if you have some other aspects that can help modify this to some degree. Now, let's say you take two people in synastry, person A and person B, they have the moon square or opposite Mercury in synastry. But let's say, at the same time, let's say, they have, Mercury is in, a good, is sextile or trine. Let's say the Mercury person has their Mercury sextile or trine the moon person's ascendant. Though you wouldn't have, the Mercury person may not, always, be in agreement or, see, always think about the positive traits of the moon person. They might see the negative traits of the moon person, but the Mercury person, in the event that their Mercury sextiles or trines the other person's ascendant, may often think about the positive in the traits of the ascendant person, of the outer demeanor of the ascendant person, the qualities that are naturally and readily expressed, which is of course the ascendant. So so you have certain you have to understand there's always, in most cases you're going to have aspects that are going to modify other ones for good or bad when you're talking about synastry in astrology. So, the thing about this is, now let's say, say if this is an aspect between, say in grade school as an example, the Mercury person's a teacher and the moon person is a student. The moon person may not always really feel like listening to what the Mercury person's teacher has to say, or may not be in agreement with what is coming, what the Mercury person is articulating, what they're talking about, whether it's the subject matter or whether how something's being presented or what have you. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.